So thank you all for joining. Um, I'm so glad that you were spending your Tuesday evening with us, and we're just going to be talking a little bit about the Northcoast Regional Land Trust, and what exactly we do here, and then talking about our ambassador property, Freshwater Farms Reserve, which is where we hold a lot of events, and then we'll talk about outreach and education programs that are going on this year, including some volunteer events and opportunities to get involved as a field trip guide. And then we'll be sure to leave some time for questions at the end and provide you with some information about how to reach out to Nadia or I about getting involved with these programs. So first off, we'd like to introduce ourselves. My name is Riley. I'm the Administration and Community Engagement Manager here at the Land Trust.
And my name is Nadia Van Lin. I am the Outreach and Development Director at the Land Trust. We have about 5 other staff, some of whom are part-time, who work at the Northcoast Regional Land Trust to do the work that we do, protecting wild and working lands. So if you see any of us in and about the community and at Freshwater Farms Reserve, feel free to say hi or come up and ask questions.
Yeah, so like many other nonprofits, we are governed by a volunteer board. And then on top of that, we also have some wonderful advisors in the community who provide input and feedback on projects and other events. And here's a list of some of the awesome members of our community who help keep the North Coast Regional Land Trust running. There are term limits on the board, so if you're looking for an opportunity to get involved, there may be something that pops up in the future, and it's a great thing to just stay in the loop about. So before moving forward, I would just like to talk a little bit about our mission and our vision here at the Land Trust, and you can just read along with me if you'd like. Our vision is for a sustainable community with a vibrant economy, resilient and productive landscapes, and clean, abundant water. And then our mission is to be dedicated to the protection and economic viability of working landscapes, farms, forests, and grazing lands, as well as to the preservation and protection of land for its natural educational, scenic, and historic values. And we work with landowners on a voluntary basis to promote stewardship of Northern California's healthy and productive resource base, natural systems, and quality of life.
Yeah. So thank you, Riley, for getting us started there. And yeah, that vision and mission statement have been part of our organization for a long time. And as Riley mentioned, our board and advisors, they voluntarily dedicate their time to running our organization and help put that together. But it's a pretty broad, broad way of saying that what we do is to conserve wild and working lands, and restore and steward wild and working lands, and then also to build community for conservation. So that includes all of you who are part of our community to help continue to steward these wild and working lands. So as you can see on the map on the left here, and Riley, you could go ahead and go to the next slide because that map will stay. The primary way that we conserve lands in our region is through working with landowners on a voluntary basis, as is said in our mission, to put conservation easements on their property. And conservation easements are kind of a nebulous term. It can be kind of complicated for people to understand what that means, but basically, in a very boiled down version of it, the land trust will work with some agency partners to help purchase specific rights to the property. So maybe the right to subdivide or develop, or it'll protect certain agricultural values or wildlife habitat spaces or riparian zones along specific waterways that are really important for the public. And so we will hold those in a conservation easement forever as part of the property. And so even if the landowner passes away and passes on the property or sells their property, those conservation values are protected forever, regardless of who owns it. And so the landowners that we work with, they choose to work with us. They want to work with us. They're already doing these conservation work and stewarding their property in that way. But they want to see it continue to stay that way in perpetuity. And so that's why they will choose to put a conservation easement on the property and protect it forever. And so it's a really great way to bring these private lands, because they are private lands, and bring them into a sphere of protection in a sense that does protect a lot of public benefits for wildlife corridors or waterways. Um, Even though we're not we're not bringing them into a public lands, federal lands or state lands. So they remain in private hands while still protecting them for the public. Um, so we've been doing this work since 2000, so for 25 years, which is pretty exciting. We'll talk more about that later. Um, Hi, William. I'm going to just mute you real quick. Thanks for logging in here. But in addition to this work, we do some other education and outreach work, but I'll talk more about that later. I do want to show you kind of what some of these conservation easement properties look like. So Riley, could you go to the next one? So I just chose a smattering of them. We have, like I said, we've protected 65,000 acres. So I'm not going to go through all of them tonight. But Hunter Ranch Conservation Easement is our largest easement by far. It's 15,000 acre property. It borders Six Rivers National Forest, and because we hold a conservation easement on that property, it protects many miles of Mad River frontage, and the Mad River provides a lot of drinking water for a lot of people. So even though this is on private lands and it continues to be private lands, that is protected for the public benefit forever. It also protects some of the working values of the property. It is a timberland and cattle ranch. And so part of the Northcoast Regional Land Trust vision, right, is having a sustainable economic and environmental future for our region. So continuing to steward these natural resources in a responsible way is part of the easement as well. We can go to the next slide. Awesome. Our smallest easement, so I figured I'd go largest and smallest. Our smallest easement is 13 acres in Trinidad. This is on a property that was donated by Dr. Louise Watson, who was a professor at Humboldt State University when it was called that. And when she passed away, she deeded the property to the Northcoast Regional Land Trust and the college. And then we worked with the college to bring it all together in one property and put a conservation easement on it before we sold it to a new landowner. And the new landowner is a wonderful steward of this property. She obviously knew that the conservation easement was part of it when she purchased the property, and we couldn't have asked for a better landowner partner in that sense. She's really great at maintaining the open spaces on the property and wildlife habitat, and also she's a huge native plant enthusiast. She helps out with CNPS a lot, California Native Plant Society, and so she plants incredible native plants on the property. So it's really lovely to see it in her hands. We can go on to the next one. Um, Red Mountain is kind of a really interesting easement that we hold. It's also a smaller ones in terms of some of our other ones. It's 25 acres of property that specifically the easement is designed to protect the two-flowered pea, which is endemic to that region. And so something like 90% of all existences of this species of plant are on this property. And so having a conservation easement on it protects that forever from development or other pressures. We can go on to the next one. Awesome. And then I figured I'd include one of our more recent conservation easement projects. This is the Butte Creek Ranch. This one's an agricultural easement, so we worked with the Strategic Growth Council's Sustainable Agricultural Lands Conservation Program called SALC at the California Department of Conservation, and they helped fund the purchase of this easement. Again, we don't own the land, but we own the easement, so we own the protected values of these working lands. So it'll continue to be cattle ranching and timberlands into the future and won't be bought up by a big corporation to be developed. And the value of working lands is incredible for our local economy, but it's also really beneficial for wildlife habitat and connectivity. Cows use these pasture, but so do deer and mountain lions, and and oak woodlands, these really vital habitats that we want to protect. So I'm really excited about that one. We can go to the next one. Awesome. So seeing those kinds of properties, and I think that gives you a better picture with that map. All the properties in pink are ones that we have completed, conservation easement projects we've completed. So you can start to see where they're connecting. And that, again, is that habitat connectivity, and being able to have species move between properties is really beneficial for their long-term, their gene pool growing, and just the long-term viability. Um, and then the orange ones are in progress conservation easement. So it takes a really long time to put a conservation easement in place. They are legal contracts that are attached to the deed of the property forever. So we want to make sure that they're written well, so that they're not unduly restrictive to future landowners. Because again, we want them to continue to farm the land and use it for natural resource production. But we also want to restrict it and make it in such a way that it is beneficial to the public too, and beneficial for the long-term environmental impacts. So yeah, it's a long process, but it's exciting to see them as they get completed, and we have so many projects in the works right now. So that's pretty cool. I wanted to give you guys that background. That's kind of this funny, interesting topic. It's not entirely what we do, but it is a really large part of the work of the Northcoast Regional Land Trust. It's difficult to get volunteer help on those things because we really rely on like lawyers and timber planners and agricultural scientists and cultural scientists to like help with these things. But we do also have a couple of other properties like Freshwater Farms Reserve, which is a little tiny star on just south of the north part of Humboldt Bay. Martin Slough and then McNamara Dairy are properties that the Northcoast Regional Land Trust owns. So we own these properties as a particularly Freshwater Farms Reserve as a place for people to come and connect with our mission of seeing wild and working lands alongside each other, and seeing how agricultural values and conservation values really do work together, and seeing them together. And so building that community for conservation, which is, I hope, why you guys are all here on this call tonight, to be part of that community and see conservation continue into the future. So at Freshwater Farms Reserve, which Riley will talk more about in a moment, we do a lot of education and outreach to emphasize that habitat restoration and compatible land use, and sustainable solutions in future. So that's kind of a way to really engage more people in the broader work that's going on throughout the region. Cool. Oh, and then continuing to engage more people. As I mentioned, we've been doing this work since 2000, so we're celebrating 25 years of our work this year. And we're doing lots of things to celebrate, but one of those being events on the 25th of each month through October. So one of those events is tonight, our volunteer virtual interest meeting. But throughout the rest of the year through October, you could come out for a Wood Creek presentation, a pint night. We'll do a slough tour at Martin Slough, a different property than Freshwater Farms Reserve. Some other events. Carrie mentioned she might be a part of this pumpkin carving event in October. So it's going to be a really good year, and we're really excited to celebrate with all of you.
Great. Yeah. So now I'll just be touching a little bit on some of these outreach and education programs that the Northcoast Regional Land Trust does. The first of these is our stewardship workdays. These are a volunteer collaboration with the Humboldt Trails Council, and these occur on the third Sunday of each month, April to October. And we provide tools at these events and coffee, snacks, safety gear, anything you may need. All you really need to bring is yourself, and it really does make a huge difference. Not only for just maintaining this property, but just also helps make a difference in the larger community for conservation out here in Humboldt County and at the Land Trust. And so then we also have some other special events like bird tours, BioBlitz, our summer celebration, which is coming up on August 9th, and we always need volunteers for, and then our annual celebration and some others. And we're always posting this information on our website under the events tab, so feel free to go check that out after this call if you'd like to, or follow along on our social media accounts, because we'll also be posting about a lot of upcoming events there, especially with our 25th anniversary celebration. And so then we also have our biological monitoring trips, and these are high school science field trips out to Freshwater Farms Reserve. It's a relatively small program right now, and it serves approximately 20 to 40 students annually. And then a bigger program that we have is Cows and Cattails, which is aimed at third to fifth graders. And we have about 600 students out there annually, which is just really an amazing program where it comes with a pre and post lesson in the classroom. And as Nadia said a little bit earlier, this really does just make a huge difference in kids' lives and just being able to get them out there. And it's a great way to get involved. So, as I said earlier, Freshwater Farms Reserve serves as our ambassador property, and we own and operate this property as Northcoast Regional Land Trust, and it's open to the public with the parking lot that's opened every day from sun up to sundown. And it's a beautiful and unique property that's tidally influenced along the slough. And because of this unique location, there's a variety of ecological processes and species that come along with it. And it's also a working farm on top of this, which means we have cows and goats out there that graze for about half the year. And we also have a few awesome organizations that also operate on this property, such as Freshwater Family Farms, who grows microgreens in the greenhouse, and then California Native Plant Society, and they have their North Coast chapter nursery outside. And you may have been to some of their native plant sales, which are really awesome. So if you haven't checked those out, definitely go do that. And we also have Redwood Community Action Agency out there, and they manage the farm stand area currently and grow flowers and vegetables. And they also have a community compost drop-off point. Yeah, so it's just a really great property for all these different community outreach events and ways of getting involved. And it's also conveniently accessible between Arcata and Eureka. And Freshwater Farms Reserve is also on Wiyot territory, which you can see as the green highlighted area in this map. There is a big red star over where Freshwater Farms is. The Wiyot people have been stewards of this land for time immemorial, so we always want to recognize their stewardship and this really special tie to the land. In the past few years, we have had tribal members come out for some different traditional gatherings at Freshwater Farms Reserve, which is just really special, and some amazing events.
Great. Yeah. Yeah, there's a Freshwater Farms Reserve. If you haven't been out there before and you are on this call, I really recommend going out there and going for a walk on the nature trail along the slough. It's a really cool property that the North Coast Regional Land Trust is able to own and manage with your help. But really, the reason we actually got first involved with this property was because of an opportunity to restore some of Wood Creek, specifically for salmonid habitat. So as I mentioned before, like a lot of our mission and our work is dedicated to conserving wild and working lands, but also restoring and stewarding them. And so it's really cool that we get to restore and steward them and build our community for conservation with this property. So it's really tapping into a lot of our mission and our values. But yeah, Wood Creek is a very important salmon habitat that is a tributary to Freshwater Creek, which is part of Freshwater Creek watershed. Freshwater Creek watershed, it's pretty small in comparison to a lot of the waters in our Six Rivers region, but it is actually one of the most, I think it's the top, at least the top seven, if not maybe the top four, most important watersheds for salmon in the state of California, or the most productive, which is pretty impressive because it's small but mighty, and there's a lot of salmon flowing through here during those heavy run seasons. And so when this came up for sale, in two parts, the Land Trust worked with the California Coastal Commission to purchase the land so that we could start to restore Wood Creek to its natural state. And we've done this over phases 1 and 2, starting back in, I think, maybe as early as 2008. And we're really excited to continue with phase 3 upstream, starting this summer. That will mostly take place actually not at Freshwater Farms Reserve, but across the street at the Felt Ranch. The landowners over there have seen the success of our the restoration of Wood Creek, and they're really excited to continue the project on their property and have that legacy of restoration continue forward. So that's really exciting to work with them. I just want to show you guys, if you look at this map, so it says phase 1, I know it's kind of small, but 35 acres. A lot of those little blue lines there were restored channels. For a while. It had been as a lot of the farmland around Humboldt Bay had been diked and tide gates installed to stop water from coming into the property and kind of dry out that pasture land and make it good habitat for cows. Um, Now, obviously, we did lose some pasture space when we did start restoring the original flow of Wood Creek, but it also alleviated some of the flooding, the seasonal flooding that would usually come through. Because these had been filled in and were supposed to be wetlands. And so it is actually a benefit to the pasture overall, even though it does result in a smaller pasture space. So it's really, again, part of our mission to showcase that wildlife habitat restoration alongside working land values. And so that agricultural production, because we need food, right? It is really cool. Just a little fun fact. The cows out at Freshwater Farms Reserve are often go to Humboldt grass-fed beef. So if you've ever eaten Humboldt grass-fed beef, you may have eaten a cow that lived for part of its life at Freshwater Farms Reserve, which I think is kind of cool that you can trace your food here. It's one of the reasons I love living here in Humboldt County. Um, but yeah, so that restoration has made a difference for salmon populations. The California Department of Fish and Wildlife has studied and shown that the salmon coming out of Wood Creek are stronger and larger than the salmon coming out of the main stem of freshwater slough. And so because they're able to hang out in these slower moving ponds and overwinter there, they're able to go out to the ocean much stronger and have a better chance of survival. And so this habitat restoration has been really successful. And like I said, we're excited to continue it upstream. And really, these projects wouldn't have happened. I have to mention, like, even though the Northcoast Regional Land Trust purchased this property and really helped spearhead this project, it wouldn't have been possible without the agencies that supported this as well, like the Redwood Community Action Agency and California Department of Fish and Wildlife, and then the people that came out. We had some planting events to revegetate the restored area with native plants and yeah, on and on. And with education too, biological monitoring, high school students come out every year and have contributed to the ongoing monitoring of this site. So it's really just exciting to see the ongoing work here with the many hands that care about this project. Um, yeah.
Great. Yeah. So as Nadia kind of touched on, the ongoing work of volunteers out of this property has just helped build a really great community through conservation activities. And Freshwater Farms really is managed and maintained by volunteers who come out and show their support by lending their time or their resources. We have our gate guardians, which is a group of amazing volunteers who come out throughout the week and especially on weekends, and will open and close the gate. And it helps just keep the property accessible for different people to come out and walk the nature trail or attend different outreach events or yeah, just really get involved in the outdoor space. And then on our stewardship work days, we also have volunteers that come out and help manage invasive species or plant native species or keep the trail maintained. And all of this really does just go a long way. And then the Freshwater Farms Reserve is also funded by supporters, community members, and other individuals who are just willing to dedicate their time and resources towards continuing to make this such a special place. Yeah, and so then here is a list of some of those monthly stewardship days with the Humboldt Trails Council that I was speaking about earlier. They fall on the third Sunday of every month, April through October. As you can see, we have the dates right here. These are all pretty good to go. The only one that's a maybe is May 18th. That may actually be on the 25th, but just go ahead and write them in your calendar or whatever. You take a picture of it, whatever you want. We'd love to have you guys out there. And yeah, spread the word, tell your family and friends and other people in the community that you think might be wanting to get involved. And then we also have our gate guardians who these guys, as I said earlier, help maintain Freshwater Farms Reserve by keeping it accessible and just lending a few minutes out of their day to come and open or close the gate. To be a part of this program, you can reach out to me and I'll add you to our email list, and you'll just receive weekly emails where there will be different time slots and you can sign up and swing by and make a difference. And we appreciate it a lot. And everyone who goes out there does too. And another bonus is that you'll receive early notification of a lot of the Northcoast Regional Land Trust events. especially with the 25th anniversary. We have a lot of fun stuff going on this year, so it's a great time to stay connected.
Awesome. I'm gonna whiz through this, so Riley, get ready to click through as we go. I'm just gonna briefly mention the Cows and Cattails field trips. These are the field trips we do with elementary students on the property. It's a pretty robust program that a lot of teachers look forward to every year and have kind of added to their curriculum at this point. Unfortunately, a lot of schools around here don't have a pretty robust science curriculum, and so they do rely on field trips like this one or at SUMEG or Humboldt Redwood State Park to kind of fill in some of those gaps. So we talk about the scientific method with students, and we help, it's an inquiry-based program for them to answer the question, can farms be part of healthy environments? We think the answer is yes, but we help the students decide that through their own experience on the property. We can go ahead and go to the next slide. So we have 4 main field trip activities that we do. This is during the field trip part of the program. And so if you want to volunteer as a field trip guide, you might help lead activities in botany, hydrology, soil science, or fisheries and biology. You also, if you're just interested in being out on the land with kids and helping assist with the field trip and you don't totally feel confident in leading a full activity yourself yet, that is fine too. Having more adults on the land with kids really does make a difference. You guys each bring your own individual experience and perspectives to the work. And so being able to have more adults there, more eyes on the kids too can help. But also then you get to get on the ground with the botany and talk about those plants with the kids and help make observations with them. You don't necessarily have to lead an activity to be a field trip guide. It is helpful when there are more adults who are willing to lead activities, but also being out on the land is helpful as well. We can go to the next one. So lots of reasons to be a volunteer field trip guide. We do several field trips throughout the year. Mostly we have a spring session in about March, so we'll be starting next month through June, and then a fall session September through October, November, whenever it starts getting really rainy again. If you get in touch with me and you want to be involved in being a volunteer field trip guide, you would be trained, so you're not just going out blindly. And there are steps to how you would learn and get to a point where you would lead a field trip on your own, or at least lead a particular activity on your own. But it does help you gain experience doing that if that's something you want to learn more about or do on your own in the future. It's actually how I started as an environmental educator. I was volunteering and leading a lot of field trips and classroom visits. And it's a really good way to give back to your community. Also, I love to teach people about environmental education. It's one of my other passions that I do, and I get to do it with the Northcoast Regional Land Trust, so that makes me really stoked, and I want to get you stoked on it too. And you might have your own feedback and knowledge and perspectives to bring to the table, and I'm also always happy to learn from you as well. I've learned from other volunteer field trip guides in the past. And so yeah, I love working with more people on these activities. Can we go to the next one? Awesome. So other opportunities with the Northcoast Regional Land Trust, we do sometimes need mailing volunteers to help with stuffing and fundraising appeals. That's how we help pay for all these programs and events. And so we do need those fundraising appeal volunteers to help stuff those event volunteers, these fundraiser events also. So the summer celebration is on August 9th. That's a really big event that we do every year at Freshwater Farms Reserve. Huckleberry Flint plays, as well as another band to be determined. Maybe you know a band. You want to tell me a band you want to play. Annual celebration is our other auction and dinner fundraiser at Fortuna River Lodge. And then event promotion. So sharing our social media posts, telling your friends and family about events, not just the fundraiser events, but events we're having and things we're doing in the community, putting up flyers. These are ways you can help out, and it does make a difference, and it doesn't take too much effort, but it does really help our continue our work to engage the community in conservation. Great. You want to go to the next one? All right. So, next steps for you, if any of this is intriguing to you and you want to continue to be involved or get more involved, continue to check our website for events. I posted that in the chat. You can also, yeah, just go directly to our website. Events are posted there. If you are not already on our volunteer email list, I know some of you registered for this tonight because you were on the volunteer email list, but if you're not already on it and you would like to learn about when we do fundraising appeal mailing stuffings or when we have events that we need fundraisers for, you can email Riley or myself and we will add you to that list. And then if you would like to help out with the Gate Guardians, email Riley. If you want to help out with field trips or learn more about them, you can email me. Both of our contact infos are there. And yeah, those stewardship events come out. Just check our website. And yeah, any questions?
So how badly do you need people to help with the gate?
Well, you can always just join the Gate Guardians group, and if there's certain times that need to be covered, I'll be in touch about that and reach out to you guys. And you can volunteer if you can and are able to go out there on like a Sunday evening, for example. But it's nothing like just whatever. You're welcome to join the list, and it will be like on an as needed basis, kind of.
Yeah, I would say at this point we have some really great gate guardians. I think there's at least one of them on this call. And so they're really awesome at helping us with the gate, but you know, everybody's busy and can't always do every day. And so if we have, you know, many hands make like work. So the more people we have on that email list, the less often people have to open and close the gate.
And also, if people have time or energy to fill out a little feedback survey, if you scan this QR code, it will take you to a survey that you can fill out just to give us some feedback on this event so that we can continue to improve these and provide you guys with the information that you want and how to get involved.
Right. Awesome. Any other questions or comments? I think we great. I just want to say thank you to all of you guys for spending some of your Tuesday night with us. There's a lot of familiar names and faces on this call, so I'm really stoked to see that you're still interested in and engaged in our conservation work. And I hope we get to see you all again soon.
Thank you so much for coming out, everyone. We appreciate it.
Great. We're going to leave this up for another moment in case we want to write down our email addresses or fill out that survey, but cool. All right.